It's great to have you join us.
Thanks, Pat. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I know you have a lot of experience, Matt. You know, I've met you over a year ago in the cybersecurity space, looking at dark web management and phishing protection. And I know business leaders are hearing a lot about it.
Yep.
A lot of small businesses today still seem to think that they're not at risk. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So the reality is, hackers aren't necessarily specifically targeting your small business, but what's occurring is employees are using their work emails and in some cases passwords on third-party application sites. So think of like LinkedIn and Dropbox are pretty famous data breaches that occurred. So if you're using your work email on LinkedIn and that gets breached, that could give away the keys to your network through that third party application. And so by that conduit of LinkedIn to now your work network, that's where that risk takes place, where they weren't initially looking at you as a small business owner, but now they've got your credentials, and believe me, they are going to hit the easiest places to go. So if you don't have things like multi-factor authentication or just basic security around your organization, you're very much going to be at risk, because they're actually running scripts on some of this data, where they're running it against all these different websites to try to log in with a single email and password.
So as a small business leader, the message there is that they're not targeting you specifically, but you're being swept up in these giant data breaches, and you're just one of thousands of emails that happen to be in there. So that's where one of your key tools is dark web monitoring.
Yep.
Can you explain how that ties in and helps to solve part of this problem?
Credential exposures lead to almost every breach. That's where the starting place. I mean, 80% of breaches essentially occur from some version of a compromised credential starting it. And look, I realize as a small business owner, the target breach isn't as applicable to you and doesn't resonate maybe, but that large organization, I mean, that it was hundreds of millions of people got exposed through Target, but it all started with a single compromised credential. And so with the dark web monitoring tool that we've partnered with you, it allows small businesses to actually monitor historically. They get all the historical data. So any credentials that have already been out there on the dark web, they'll get visibility into that, but they'll get alerts anytime there's a new compromised credential, so that it gives them at least a proactive capability to take care of some of this stuff. But it also gives them an opportunity to really enforce security, because it makes it very real to people. With your employee base, sometimes it's hard to get people to understand this stuff, but it's pretty easy when you're actually showing them their clear text password on the dark web. It resonates much quicker with people.
And that's really the key. We need something that the executives can understand, and that we can start to show employees why it's important. But your tool is actually linked into our monitoring system, and alerts are popping up on our dashboards, so we can respond and remediate. And our clients don't need to understand any of that. But then we can come back later and try to educate them, just so we can get them to keep those credentials more secure and try to follow some of these best practices.
Yeah, and another kind of helpful tip, I think, when it related to passwords is, you get those security questions, and I don't think companies realize they're actually in some cases, they're doing you a disservice by asking you very common questions, which are like your mother's maiden name and your favorite, I don't know, your pet from your childhood or whatever. Because the problem is, again, you think about social engineering, I can get all that information. So when you answer those questions, you actually might want to answer them in a fictitious manner. I mean, you want to remember what those fictitious answers are, but maybe don't actually put your mother's maiden name. Come up with a fake maiden name that you're going to use that's not public information. Never repeating your network password on any third-party application. But even variations of passwords are a terrible way to do it as well, right? And actually, you're starting to see. I recently saw Bank of America doesn't allow you to do a special character with the exclamation point, because that is the go-to special character for whatever reason. Hackers actually have scripts on patterns, so they have these scripts that will run against those types of patterns.
And it feels crazy that in 2020 we're still giving the same advice.
I know.
But the reason we're doing it is that this is a huge attack vector that's still working.
No,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, you give up your credentials, it's giving up the keys to your network. And you won't even know that they're on there, because if they're getting in with legitimate credentials, they could just sit there for months on top of months. And depending on the organization and what you do, there could be a much bigger play here.
So Matt, I really respect your insights here, and I'd like to end with another John Wooden quote. He's one of Coach Wooden is one of my a mentor I never met. Is show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And when I look at kind of the things that Kaseya is doing, and with your acquisitions and the strategic products that you're bringing to market, and the level of training and IT process maturity that you're helping us with, I mean, I think it's your strong future is part of our strong future. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it, Baz. Yeah, it's a true partnership.